A Fox News alert, Donald Trump releasing his short list for potential U.S. Supreme Court justices.
It's been a hot topic on the campaign trail, and now we're getting a look at who President Trump might nominate to the highest court in the land. We're covering all the news happening now.
The importance of these debates is going to exceed the importance of any debates in any race that we've ever seen.
Early voting has already begun as both campaigns buckle down to prepare for the very first debate. Ahead, the strategies and the predictions for Monday's showdown. Plus, focusing on the issues.
There are so many issues we need to take on together.
Our plan includes one of the biggest tax reforms in American history.
We'll look at the tax and spending plans on both sides. And 2 police-involved shootings, 2 cities, but one department released video of the incident, the other didn't. So should public pressure impact how evidence is released? It's all happening now. And we begin with the countdown to the big showdown. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump facing off on Monday night. Welcome to the second hour of Happening Now. I'm Jenna Lee. We're usually talking about football on Monday night, but not next Monday.
No,
yeah.
Something else trumps football. I'm Greg Sheridan for John Scott. The 2 candidates getting ready for the first presidential debate at Hofstra University out on Long Island. It is the first of 3 scheduled in the 6 weeks before we all head to the polls to choose a new president. Hillary Clinton going into the debate with a narrow overall lead and one brand new poll showing her up by 6 points over Donald Trump in a 4-way race and beating him on most issues.
You're absolutely correct. We're weeks away from Election Day, but even before the first debate, there is voting underway in places like Minnesota. We have live Fox team coverage of the candidate strategies. Rich Edson's following the Clinton team near her home in New York, but we begin with Peter Doocy, who's live at Trump Tower in New York City.
And Jenna, the Trump team tells me they actually hope Hillary Clinton does most of the talking on Monday night because they believe the longer her answers are, the less people like what they are hearing. And based on their very careful review of her past debate performances, Trump's advisors think they've noticed a pattern. And so they are telling Trump to expect Clinton to give very polished and well-rehearsed answers to the first part of moderator questions, but then struggle with follow-ups that she may not be ready for. We also have some new intel this afternoon about how Trump is going to decide on Monday whether or not to be aggressive or more measured in what will be his first ever one-on-one debate.
My father's going to be himself, and you can never tell what's going to happen. You have to judge the moment. If she comes out swinging, he's certainly somebody who will never back down. If she's nice and respectful, he can be incredibly charming as well. You really have to gauge the moment.
And we're told that Trump is studying, but he's not rehearsing specific scripted lines. And his campaign apparently thinks that he is prepared enough already for Monday night that they are not going to keep him here at Trump Tower just working on preparing for this event in Hempstead, New York. They are keeping him out on the trail. He's going to have a big rally in a swing state tomorrow down in Roanoke, Virginia, and that'll be the day after he put out this list, which we just got, of 10 new prominent judges for now a total of 21 that he would consider for the Supreme Court. Very interesting. One of the names on the list of potential justices for a President Trump is Senator Mike Lee. And that's interesting because Mike Lee still has not endorsed Donald Trump. His office says that being on this list does not make him any more likely to endorse Donald Trump. But his office did not say that if he got a call from the next president asking if he wanted to be on the Supreme Court, that he would turn it down. Jenna?
Very interesting. Peter, thank you.
Hillary Clinton, in the meantime, also preparing for Monday night's debate. Staffers aren't really giving out many details about exactly what she's doing, but they do say she'll be ready for whatever Trump brings to the stage. Our team Fox coverage continues now with Rich Edson live near the Clinton home in Chappaqua, New York. Rich?
Good afternoon, Greg. And Hillary Clinton is on the move. Our pool producer, who's assigned to monitor the Democratic nominee, says she left her home here in Chappaqua around 11:15 this morning. Her campaign refuses to divulge some of the details of her debate preparation, like who is playing Donald Trump and where they're holding these practice sessions. Our pool producer says she spotted the Clinton motorcade going in the direction of White Plains, New York City, that's south of here. And then the motorcade shook our pool producer about 15 minutes into the trip. So we have no idea where they are this afternoon. Clinton's communications director, however, Jen Palmieri, did speak with our own Jennifer Griffin, playing up Clinton's challenge and challenger, as these campaigns are wont to do ahead of these first debates. She says Donald Trump is a skilled and good performer and noted he's also an unconventional candidate. The campaign also says that Clinton is working on sharpening her points and conducting real-time mock debates. Her running mate, Senator Tim Kaine, is predicting a solid debate performance from Clinton.
I think you will see it fairly one-sided, with Hillary saying, you know, here's who we are and here's where we're going. And let me tell you, I actually have some plans and some policies with some details about how we're going to get there.
Clinton has had plenty of time to practice. She has no public events today, had none yesterday, and the last public event she had was a small rally in Orlando, Florida. Donald Trump is now playing into questions about Clinton's health, saying that he's suggesting that she is resting up for that debate Monday night.
Always good to be rested and ready. All right, Rich Edson, thanks very much.
Well, so each campaign is looking to exploit the other's weaknesses on Monday night. What do the experts think? Joe Trippi served as Democrat Howard Dean's campaign manager. Ed Rollins was principal White House advisor to Ronald Reagan, a longtime strategist, and to business and political leaders, and co-chairman, we should mention, of the Great America PAC, which is pro-Trump. Both are Fox News contributors, and we love relying on their perspectives at times like this. It's great to have you both.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the weaknesses. Why not? We can. Joe, what is your number one concern as far as the weakness of Hillary Clinton?
I think she can get too wonky and answer with a lot of facts and figures, and I think she has to connect to people, not just with the not with the wonky thing. That's what I think. When she does that, I think the Trump folks hoping that she goes a long time in answering questions. I think that plays into that. I don't expect that, though. I think she's gotten much better over this cycle in debates than she was in 2008. I think she's going to have a strong performance.
Okay, Ed, what about you? What about your candidate? What are your concerns?
Well, I think obviously he can't make a big substantive debate. I mean, he's a very extraordinary talent. He's used to a big stage. He's been a moderator of a very successful television show. So I don't worry about the television performance. And I think the key thing little concern I have is two of his principals, who are very substantial men, Chris Christie and Rudy Giuliani, are kind of prosecutors, and they're both dying to prosecute Hillary Clinton. And my sense is I think he needs to be presidential, not quite as tough on her as they may want to be, and at the end of the day look presidential, not make any mistakes, have some good sound bites, and sort of own the stage as he normally does.
That's so interesting. What an interesting note about prosecutors being your advisor, and you got to be careful because prosecutors are who they are because they can do that, and if you're a presidential candidate, you're not a prosecutor for a reason. Right. Joe, I'm curious. I see this note coming in from Jennifer Griffin, who's been with the Hillary Clinton campaign, covering that campaign night and day. And she's confirming that two longtime Democratic strategists, Karen Dunn and Ron Klain, are now advising Hillary Clinton. And just a note on one of them, Karen Dunn apparently told President Obama to punch Romney in the mouth after President Obama's initial performance in 2012, and we remember that debate. Who are these two people, and what do you make of them advising Hillary Clinton? Is it a game changer?
Well, no, I mean, look, first of all, that's the boxing game of in terms of the language, in terms of a debate. Look, this is going to be a Donnybrook, I think, and probably the most watched debate ever. Both of these, particularly Ron Klain, have been, at the top, in the major leagues of Democratic Party politics, advised many candidates on debates, and I think it's good to have them on on her team. But to get into, look, this is going to be a battle that I think most of the country is going to watch, and I think that's all that comment was about when she made that comment.
Well, it'll be interesting as well, Ed, to go back to the point about preparation. How, in your opinion, Ed, how much does preparation or advisors really matter here? Preparation versus just gut instinct.
It's whatever the candidate wants. Every candidate is different. I was Reagan's campaign manager in 1984. The White House took the first debate and they overbriefed him. By the time he got to the debate, he had too much stuff in his head. They already had the answers because he'd been president for 4 years. The second one, we relaxed it. We basically had a rally before the debate. He rose up to the occasion and he basically did very well. Richard Nixon, one of the brightest men to ever be president, obviously with flaws beyond his brilliance, didn't prepare. He thought he had all the knowledge in the 60 debate, and it wasn't about substance because he had plenty of substance. It was about style. So I think whatever you want as a candidate is what you have to try and give your candidate. You got to kind of stay in line and try and keep them on the track. But my sense is Trump's doing what Trump needs to have done, and he'll be ready for this thing.
One of the things Peter Doocy just told us is that Trump will be on the campaign trail. We know that Hillary Clinton has a little bit of a quieter schedule, Joe, but she's still very much out there when it comes to social media. And I just wanted to play a little clip from this. This is a comedy sketch that she did. And in this comedy sketch, she's asked questions like, are you excited to be the first girl president? Or, how many words per minute could you type as secretary? Or, what are you going to wear to the first debate? Let's watch this exchange.
Do you wonder what your opponent might be wearing? I mean,
I assume you'll wear, that red power tie.
Or maybe like a white power tie.
That's even more appropriate.
Joe, what do you think of this style, substance, tone, gender? What do you think of Hillary Clinton doing something like this?
Well, this is between the two ferns. It's something that millennials really tune into and moves virally. That's who she's trying to reach here. She's not trying to reach people concerned about Social Security. I
think you're underestimating millennials who very much care about Social Security, but maybe not in this context.
But I meant that as a joke, obviously. But I'm saying that it's about this is the place you go to try to reach millennials. There are other places also, obviously, but that's what she's trying to do.
It brings up an interesting question, Ed, about playing with gender and joking, because we know that one of the criticisms from the Clinton camp with Matt Lauer on NBC was that they felt she was being treated unfairly as a woman. And so that was a major complaint, and there's going to be a lot of folks watching the way that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are both questioned as we see the first two candidates, a man and a woman, on the stage. So can she play with gender as well as being sensitive to it as we've seen in the past?
Well, she can't be strident. Unfortunately, if a woman gets strident, she basically loses some of the benefits that she has to begin with. So she can't come off as I don't want to use the term, but too strident. I think the key thing for her is she's substantive, she's knowledgeable, she has to basically make that perspective. In his case, he can't mistreat her. He can't basically not treat her like a lady, give her all the respect she deserves as having had a long career. She's a former First Lady, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, and he needs to treat her with that respect. I think the critical thing, and the mistake she made in going on that show, is if you're not a comedian, you shouldn't go on a very bizarre show, and I think some of the other stuff that came out of that was not particularly beneficial to millennials or anybody else.
Well,
but I think the key thing is just this will be a totally different debate. It's a big audience. 80 million was the largest ever to watch one of these, and that was the Kennedy. That was the Reagan-Carter debate. This one will exceed that certainly, and may go as high as 100.
That would be incredible.
Right.
I will say something about this show. If you've missed it online, I mean, there's clearly only one comedian, regardless of who the guest is.
That's why you need to pick and choose.
Well,
They're always their shows. So,
and Ed and I could use a fern on both sides of this.
You know what? We should try that next time.
Absolutely.
We'll see if it adds something. Joe, Ed, great to have you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always enjoy our talks. We want to hear from you. Who do you think will win the debate? Is there a winner and loser? Perhaps could it be a draw? I don't know. Our live chat is up and running. Just go to foxnews.com/happeningnow to join the conversation.
Richard Nixon famously went on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In back in the late 60s, early 70s, in an attempt to humanize him, to be funny. Nixon wasn't funny. There was just no fun in Richard Nixon.
Well, comedy can be difficult. That's why we do what we do and not comedy.
Comedy's hard, death is easy. As prosecutors rock the streets of Charlotte, Donald Trump sounded off about the state of African American communities. What President Obama had to say about that in an interview from the Smithsonian's new African American History Museum. And a police officer in another city now facing charges in the deadly shooting of a man. Hear what prosecutors charged her with. Some breaking news: after 100 years of backing Republican candidates, we just learned that the Cincinnati Enquirer is tweeting out that its editorial board is endorsing Hillary Clinton for president. So, a century later, they're doing an about-face politically. Whether that has any impact, hard to know, but it is an influential newspaper in a fairly conservative area endorsing Hillary Clinton instead of Donald Trump.
African American communities are absolutely in the worst shape that they've ever been in before, ever.
Well, now President Obama is responding to remarks by Donald Trump during protests following the shooting death of a black man by a police officer. The president encouraging Mr. Trump to visit the new Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and taking a page from the history books in an interview conducted there.
I think even most 8-year-olds will tell you that whole slavery thing wasn't very good for black people. What we have to do is use our history to propel us to make even more progress in the future.
The president also commenting on the situation in Charlotte, saying violence is the wrong way to protest police shootings, but he said he would stay out of the debate about specifics so as not to interfere with the investigation.
The Oklahoma police officer charged with manslaughter for killing an unarmed black motorist turned herself in to authorities. She, quote, reacted unreasonably, end quote, when she finally fatally shot 40-year-old Terrence Crutcher, who was seen on videotape walking away from her with his hands up. Casey Stiegel has more now from Dallas. Casey?
Yeah, and Greg, Officer Betty Shelby did turn herself in the overnight hours. She was not at that facility long, where she was booked, processed, and mugshot taken. Here it is. She will be formally arraigned, according to the local district attorney, on next week on that first-degree manslaughter charge. According to the affidavit, prosecutors say the Tulsa police officer, quote, became emotionally involved to the point that she overreacted, end quote, when she shot and killed Terrence Crutcher 1 week ago today. Dashcam and police helicopter video capturing the moment on tape, and it shows multiple police officers with their weapons or tasers drawn as Crutcher has his hands in the air. But those on the scene say they repeatedly asked the man to get to the ground, and instead he did not comply and started walking towards his vehicle. Officer Shelby and her attorney have said he started to reach inside through the driver's window when she then fired her service weapon because she feared for her life, while another officer tased him, apparently within seconds of each other. The victim's family says it appears to them the window was rolled up, so he couldn't have been reaching into the SUV. However, his twin sister does say the manslaughter charge is a step in the right direction.
While we are pleased to learn that the officer who senselessly killed my beloved twin brother will face criminal charges for her reckless act, we understand that nothing will bring him back. Nothing will bring back our father, our son, our brother, our nephew, our cousin.
Candlelight vigils, prayer services have been held all week in Tulsa. Things have been peaceful with the demonstrations there. Terrence Crutcher's funeral is planned for tomorrow. Greg?
Casey Stiegel live in Dallas. Casey, thanks.
We're also getting an update on the citywide curfew in Charlotte as authorities respond to growing calls to release videotape of the deadly shooting that sparked these protests.
A Fox News alert: the public is getting its first look at the video from Charlotte, North Carolina, showing a police officer shooting and killing Keith Lamont Scott, which sparked, of course, 2 nights of violent protesting, in which 1 man died. The New York Times is posting a video online of this deadly encounter. And it was shot, actually, the video, by the victim's wife on Tuesday. She apparently arrived on the scene, and looks like with a cell phone she was able to capture some of the events and the conversations, the shouting instructions taking place between police and her husband. Of course, the chief of police says there's at least one video from a body cam and another from a dash cam capturing the fatal shooting of Mr. Scott. Their attorney says it's not clear that he was holding anything. Police say he was brandishing a gun, refusing to drop it. The State Bureau of Investigation has now taken this case away from the chief of police, and they're taking it over amid a variety of questions. And Jenna, you're just looking at this right now and reading some of the transcript. What do you see?
Well, you don't see it. It's shot by somebody watching the incident take place. So you don't actually see, from what I see, it very limited at this time, is the actual shooting. But you hear the narration of the wife. It's the wife of the man who shot yelling, "Don't shoot him." But you also see in the video that there is somebody saying, "Drop the gun." So at this point, at first glance, and we're all just seeing it for the first time, it looks like it really could go either direction, either to support the police's claim or support the family's claim, because you actually don't see the individual who was shot clearly in this video. So we're going to work on getting that video so we can show what we can to you. In the meantime, it is interesting what you can see of the police officers in the video, and it ties in with our next segment. My next guest says a number of media outlets are losing sight of a critical detail in this story, and that is that the officer accused of firing that fatal shot is a black police officer. Howard Kurtz says, quote, "These editorial decisions are helping shape the coverage of the tragedy that led to violence, injuries, and looting. I've talked to journalist friends who were unaware that the Charlotte officer is black, and the story has been lumped together with the earlier fatal shooting by a white officer of Terrence Crutcher, a black Tulsa resident who police say did not have a gun." Here to explain, Fox News media analyst Howard Kurtz. So, Howard, in this video, you see the different police officers, and you do see one officer, and he happens to be African American. Do you think releasing the video, if the police had released the video themselves, and you could see the makeup of the different officers, and obviously it's a diverse team that responded, that we wouldn't have this issue about whether or not the media has to report the race of the officer?
Well, the media are reporting the race of the officer, Jenna, but in a very a way determined to play it down. I mean, just let me hold up yesterday's New York Times. It was the lead story, and it doesn't appear until the 30th paragraph. Washington Post, also lead story. The race of the officer doesn't appear until the 31st paragraph. Wall Street Journal put it the next to last paragraph. MSNBC didn't mention it in prime time on Wednesday night. But the videos are not absolutely dispositive when it comes to this, but they provide important clues, and I think one of the reasons this video that you've just seen, that I have not, is so newsworthy is because the Charlotte police are refusing for the moment to put out a video that certainly would help everybody understand what happened here in this dispute about whether or not Keith Scott had a gun or did not.
One of the things we're seeing in the video is the wife is yelling something about him having a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, and that he just took his medication. So we're not really quite sure what to make of that and what that adds to the story of how this all transpired. How do you think media outlets should address this, Howie? Is it that they have to state the race every time we do this story? And to some protesters, do you think it would even matter if this is more about police versus a certain group of people rather than the race of that police officer?
Well, I don't think that race should be routinely and gratuitously inserted into stories, but in this particular kind of case, where there's this underlying narrative that there is an epidemic in this country of white police officers, perhaps out of overreaction or racial stereotyping or just fear, shooting black men and black teenagers, it's impossible not to argue that it's a relevant fact. It doesn't tell us whether or not the officer in question, Brentley Vincent, acted responsibly or recklessly. It doesn't solve that question, and it doesn't let the officer off the hook. But coming back to this question of the video, I have to think, Jenna, that if the Charlotte police authorities felt that the video that was shot, the official police video, supported its version of events, that we would have seen that already. And so it is adding to the distrust and the suspicion of people who are protesting. And I think, you know, I don't know, some of them probably don't care about the race of the officer, but I think it's just a relevant fact that ought to be reported along with whatever other relevant facts we can gather.
Well, it's worth pointing pointing out that the story, like many others, is very light on facts. So we have to report both sides, and we can't even really present a clear conclusion or a clear set of facts because there's only just a few. And so that's limiting everybody in the reporting of the story.
And we learned in Ferguson not to rush to judgment because what seems initially may be different once testimony is taken and all of that.
Absolutely. You have to be very careful. Howie, great to see you. I know there's going to be a big show. Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz airs every Sunday right here at 11 o'clock Eastern Time right on the Fox News channel.
Fox News is taking a closer look at the issues in the 2016 race. Coming up next, taxes and spending, what both candidates are proposing, what it might cost you. A closer look now at the issues as we count down to Election Day. Let's talk taxes. Hillary Clinton's plan would effectively expand the top income tax bracket. Taxes on the middle class would not increase. Corporate tax would not change, but estate taxes would increase with the top bracket at 65%. Now, Donald Trump's plan calls for cutting the top income tax bracket to 33%. Corporate taxes would drop to 15%. And the estate tax would be eliminated entirely. Ian Pryor joins us now, communications director for American Crossroads. Doug Schoen is a former advisor to President Clinton and a Fox News contributor. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Doug, hi, Greg. What's really making news is Hillary Clinton's changed position and changed dramatically on estate taxes. She spent the better part of a year campaigning, saying, I want to raise death taxes, estate taxes, from 40 to 45%. Spent a year doing that. Now, all of a sudden, she's saying, oh, just kidding. I want to hike it all the way up to 65%. Right. I mean, that's more than just a refinement, and arguably, isn't that a blatant sort of populist political ploy?
I think it is. Now, in fairness, we ought to indicate that the 65% rate, I think, only applies to those estates that are over $500 million, if I read the plan correctly. But certainly you're right, Greg. This is her effort to demonstrate to the left, to the Bernie Sanders voters, the millennials, that she's on their side and wants to spend money from the very rich to help those who are arguably more in need of government assistance.
Ian, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, who, by the way, said it's dead on arrival, pointed out something very important. He said this would stop family-owned businesses, including women and minority-owned businesses, from being passed down to their children and grandchildren. Is he right about that?
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with what Doug said. I think this is a political ploy, and I think you can pull two key points from this ploy. First, she's catering to the Bernie Sanders supporters. She's probably seeing in polls that they're not enthusiastic about her. They still don't trust her. They still think she's a tool of Wall Street, and she may be losing support to Gary Johnson. The second point, I think she probably assumes that Donald Trump is not going to take advantage of this issue in a race that's mainly been about character attacks and insults. But the bottom line is this is going to hurt family-owned businesses. This is also going to hurt family farms, and this is going to be dead on arrival if Hillary Clinton were president. It's never going to get past Congress.
A lot of family farms may have a very high monetary value, but they're low on cash. And so all of a sudden, you know, it's been in the family for generations, and now the government is essentially conscripting it and forcing, you to sell it. Doug, what about, there has long been an argument that death taxes are really immoral. It's a triple tax. You get taxed when you earn it. You taxed again when you invest that money, and then you die and you get taxed all over again. I mean, isn't that really immoral?
Well, let's put it this way. I would prefer a tax policy that had a much lower estate rate, lower corporate and personal income taxes to encourage growth. That's something that centrist Democrats used to believe in and used to advocate, and clearly Secretary Clinton's moved away from it. I prefer not to use words like moral and immoral. I just think bad policy.
How about unconscionable?
Unconscionable is
That's
pretty
better.
Close enough, sure.
Or how about it's wrong?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's just fine.
What about that? I mean, some people, work very hard all their lives. They save a lot of money, and they do it really because they want to leave something to the people they love. And, you know, here you've got the government all of a sudden saying, well, we're going to take 2/3 of everything you've got when you die. What are your view?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It is absolutely not a popular issue for a majority of Americans. And going back to something that Doug just said again, when we're talking about centrist Democrats, look, if Hillary Clinton were to be elected president, she's not just going to have problems with Republicans getting this passed. There's going to be another election in 2018, and I can tell you, a lot of those red state Democratic senators, they're not going to want their first vote to be anti-family business, anti-family farm, and then you go over to the House, and there are going to be a ton of Democrats over there that aren't going to want to have that vote as well. So this thing really is a non-starter, and it's very transparent because it's just not going to happen. And Hillary is really catering to sort of those Bernie Sanders voters out there to try and win them over.
Yes, she also wants to get rid of the stepped-up basis. So in addition to, you know, paying death taxes, then you got to pay capital gains taxes from the money of the deceased. So you got like $10 left. Doug Schoen, Ian Pryor, good to see you both.
Good to see you, Greg.
Thank you.
Well, deadly police shootings in two very different cities with very different outcomes. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, a video was released nearly immediately, and now that officer is facing serious charges. While violent protests rocked the city of Charlotte, we're going to take a closer look at both of these perspectives legally. Also, a tornado tears through northern Utah, damaging several homes. Why it's a rare occurrence in that part of the country. Well, right now, cleanup efforts underway after a rare tornado hits northern Utah. The twister ripping through the area, damaging more than 20 homes, toppling trees and power lines, and fortunately, only minor injuries are reported. Meteorologists say this part of Utah only sees about one tornado per year.
Two deadly police-involved shootings in two separate cities, raising some pretty serious questions about when and if it is appropriate to release video from such incidents. In Tulsa, for example, the videotape from a police-involved shooting almost immediately became public. It shows officers fatally shooting Terrence Crutcher after they say he ignored their commands. Now, the officer who shot Crutcher is now she's been charged with felony murder. And protests in Tulsa have actually remained calm because of the release of the video. The same cannot be said for the city of Charlotte. Violent protests there erupting after police refused to release the video. They still refuse to release it. The fatal shooting of this man, Keith Scott. Let's bring in our legal panel. Fred Tisi is a former federal prosecutor. Brian Claypool is a criminal defense attorney. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Now the State Bureau of Investigation has stepped in, and they've taken this case away from Chief Putney. Is that perhaps is one of the reasons, perhaps because he refuses to be transparent, he refuses to release the dash cam and the body cam videotapes?
Yeah, Greg, absolutely. I think what the state is doing is they're trying to level the playing field. Because oftentimes in investigations of police shootings, it's not really a search for the truth. Because think about it, Greg. You've got police officers investigating police officers, their own colleagues. So many times they go to the scene and they're actually trying to find evidence to justify the shooting rather than searching for the truth. Now that the State Bureau of Investigation is getting involved, I hope that they will mandate that this video gets released, because it will bring clarity to the shooting as opposed to propagating uncertainty.
Fred, Chief Putney said yesterday, I'm not going to release this video unless there's a compelling reason. Well, my goodness, isn't averting violent and deadly demonstrations and protests a compelling reason?
Well, I guess you could spin it that way if you wanted to, and as much respect as I have for Brian, I find his comment offensive.
Fred.
Well, no, it's not logic. We don't let mob mentalities dictate how we do things. We have rules of law, and we have practices, and we have procedures in this case. Now, ultimately, I think it's a good idea for the state's Bureau of Investigation to step in because it removes the appearance of impropriety, and it says to the citizens and the people of the state of North Carolina that we're going to look at this kind of in an even-handed way. But these tapes are evidence, and there's a lot of other parts. They're just one piece. There's eyewitness accounts. There's forensic evidence. There's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, it's easy to look at it in a vacuum and anecdotally say, well, in Tulsa they released a video and there were no riots, and in Charlotte they didn't and there were. I don't see the correlation.
Old saying, sunshine is the best disinfectant. In other words, be straightforward and release information and transparent. But Brian, I want to ask you this because we were just relaying to our viewers the breaking news. The wife of Mr. Scott, the alleged victim in this case, had taken her own videotape as she approached the car where her husband was. Now, it doesn't show the shooting itself, and it doesn't show a gun. But it does tell us a lot about the events that were surrounding it. Isn't that now all the more reason why the government needs to release its videotapes?
That's a great point, Greg. A lot of people are not focusing on what led to the police department's attempted apprehension of Keith Scott. In other words, he's just sitting in his car waiting for his son. Much like, remember, Walter Scott was shot in the back. He had I think a tail light that was broken. Freddie Gray was on a bike. Terrence Crutcher, his car broke down. You've got 4 shootings of black men who hadn't even committed a crime. These were not bank robbers. They hadn't kidnapped anybody. You had a wife show up at the scene saying, don't shoot, don't shoot. Why are these officers on him like rabid wolves? Proper police protocol would have been to back up, take a position of cover, engage the suspect, give him a chance to understand what's unfolding, and then tell him to drop whatever is in his hands.
Well, we'll wait and see. And Fred, I'm sorry I didn't give you more time. We've had some breaking news covering this very story. But thank you both, Fred TC, Brian Claypool.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, Greg.
Well, personal information for millions of Yahoo account holders could now be in the hands of hackers as the company confirms a massive security breach. What you should do if you have a Yahoo email account. New details now on the biggest security breach ever for an email provider. Yahoo confirming information for at least 500 million accounts was compromised by hackers. The leak coming to light at Yahoo well before its big deal with Verizon. So why are we just learning about it now? What should we do about it? Fox Business Network's Lori Rothman is live from the New York Stock Exchange with more. Lori?
Hi, Jenna. Great to see you. So, I mean, Marissa Mayer, the CEO of Yahoo, certainly on the hot seat today. Several important questions need to be answered here. Namely, this hack happened back in 2014, so why didn't Yahoo alert its users to change passwords? And then, of course, $4.8 billion, that's the value of the deal Verizon buying Yahoo. Wouldn't that come up in the deal negotiations? Why was that not disclosed? This is the largest cyber hack ever disclosed for a public company. I mean, it's really jaw-dropping. So let's go ahead now and look at what to do if, in fact, you do have an account specifically with Yahoo or really any other email account. I mean, we use it so frequently. Why not go over this list of reminders? Change all your passwords, especially if you get an email phishing or any kind of shoddy emails, shady emails that may raise pause. Also review old emails, delete sensitive content, and disconnect accounts. You also want to switch to Gmail in this case if you have a Yahoo account, of course, or use some kind of encryptions. Now this, as we've been mentioning, is certainly the largest hacking, but it's not the only one, and sadly not so recently. You had Heartland Payment, 130 million accounts were hacked in 2009. LinkedIn, you probably remember this one, 117 million customers. That was this year. And then TJ Maxx, 90 million accounts, and that was in 2007. So you really have to keep your wits about you. In the meantime, we're going to keep a close eye on Verizon and see what happens there. If this deal, $4.8 billion, does ultimately go through, there is a material adverse change clause in the deal, which means if the company, the acquired company, falls in value, then the buyer does have the right to walk away. So we'll keep our eye on this one. Jenna?
It'll be interesting to watch. Lori, thank you.
You got it.
Yeah, I sort of wonder whether the buyer knew the secrets of the seller in this case.
Right, and it could actually impact the deal. Do you have a Yahoo email account?
I don't.
No.
Do you?
One I don't use. So is that, what does that mean? I'm going to have to... That's where all my junk mail goes, so I have no idea what the password is, so good luck.
You log in, you
That's
get
not a
an
dare.
alert, Clint tells us. Yeah, okay, well, that's good luck with
right.
that. One of the world's largest delivery companies testing out some high-flying technology. That could be a game changer come Christmas time. We'll have a final 30 next.
There's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every day.
Well, time for the final 30 now. UPS taking to the air to test a new delivery method. It's partnered with a drone company to make drop-offs in remote or hard-to-reach locations. The first test yesterday went off without a hitch. There you go. It's parachuted in.
And McDonald's considering an addition to its all-day breakfast menu, Happy Meals. They'll come with either McGriddles cakes or an egg and cheese McMuffin. Testing will start later this month in Tulsa. I like the McGriddles idea.
I do like the egg
That's great.
McMuffin, so we're in.
Yeah, a little boysenberry
We're
syrup.
easy to please, that's for sure. Thank you, Greg, and thank you for joining us. America's Election Headquarters starts now.
Bye-bye.